Hello everyone, and welcome to my General Hospital official channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up.
The courtroom was tense as Willow sat beside Michael, her hands clasped tightly together, her knuckles white. The air seemed to hum with anxiety, a low buzz of whispers echoing through the crowded room. Nina Reeves sat across the aisle, her face pale but determined, her lawyer whispering last-minute advice into her ear. The case had already dragged on for weeks, bitter accusations, emotional testimonies, and painful reminders of a past that neither woman could escape. But today was supposed to be the end. The day the judge would finally rule on visitation rights, and whether Nina would ever be allowed to see her grandchildren again. No one could have predicted what was about to happen. Willow's eyes darted toward the door as it creaked open. Everyone turned. A tall man, dressed in a dark gray suit, stepped inside. His presence was immediately commanding, calm yet unsettling. He moved with deliberate steps, his gaze fixed on the judge. "Your Honor," he said, his deep voice cutting through the murmurs. "I apologize for the interruption, but I have evidence that will change the course of this hearing." The room fell silent. Michael stood up instinctively. "Who the hell are you?" he demanded. The man's eyes flicked toward Michael, and a faint, almost knowing smile curved his lips. "My name isn't important," he replied. "What matters is what I have to say about Nina Reeves and Willow Corinthos." Nina's heart began to race. "What is this?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "Who are you?" The stranger took a few steps forward, holding a file folder in his hand. "Let's just say I've been keeping track of things that others wanted buried," he said, locking eyes with Nina. The judge leaned forward, irritation in her tone. "Sir, this is highly irregular. If you have information, it must be submitted properly through counsel." But the man didn't flinch. "Your Honor, with all due respect, what I have can't wait. Because if I'm right, this case shouldn't even be happening. You see, Nina Reeves isn't who everyone thinks she is." A ripple of shock moved through the courtroom. Willow blinked, her heart pounding. "What are you talking about?" she asked softly. The man turned toward her. "I'm talking about the fact that the connection between you and Nina isn't as simple as mother and daughter. There's more to this story than anyone has told you." Nina's eyes filled with tears. "Stop it," she snapped. "You don't know what you're talking about." The man opened the folder slowly, pulling out several photographs and documents. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about," he said. "And I think deep down, you do too." Michael stepped closer, his tone sharp. "You come in here, disrupt a court hearing, and start spewing nonsense about my wife's family, this better be good." The man met his glare with unnerving calm. "It's not nonsense, Mr. Corinthos. It's truth that's been hidden for decades." He handed a document to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. "You'll find adoption records, birth certificates, and DNA reports in there. All pointing to one fact: Nina Reeves isn't the biological mother of Willow Corinthos." Gasps erupted from every corner of the courtroom. Nina's mouth fell open, shaking her head in disbelief. "That's not possible," she whispered. "I took a DNA test with Willow, she's my daughter." The man nodded slowly. "You did. But what you didn't know was that someone tampered with those results." He turned back toward the stunned crowd. "The truth is, there was another baby. Another twin that everyone thought had died at birth." The words seemed to hang in the air like smoke. "But she didn't die. She was taken. And someone made sure Nina believed the wrong child was hers." Willow's eyes flooded with tears. "Are you saying I'm not Nina's daughter?" she asked, her voice cracking. The man's expression softened. "I'm saying that the truth has been twisted. The records show that another woman, a nurse at the hospital, switched two babies on the night of their birth. One was given to a family under false pretenses, and one disappeared." He looked toward Nina. "And you've been living with half a truth ever since." The judge banged the gavel, trying to regain control. This is highly irregular, she said sharply. We can't verify any of this without proper procedure. But Nina couldn't hear her. She was staring at Willow, trembling. No, Nina whispered. This can't be true. I felt it. I knew she was mine. Willow looked just as lost. Then who am I? She whispered, her voice barely audible. The mysterious man closed the folder, his tone calm but somber. That's the question we're all going to have to answer. Michael stepped between them protectively. You're saying this out of nowhere, and we're just supposed to believe you? He said angrily. The man reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a flash drive. You don't have to take my word for it. The proof is all here, lab results, hospital logs, DNA tests done independently. It all points to a cover-up that goes back to Madeline Reeves herself. Nina gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. My mother? She whispered. She did this? The man nodded grimly. Madeline Reeves arranged for the switch. She wanted control over your inheritance, over your child, over everything. And she succeeded. Until now. The courtroom was spinning for Nina. Memories flashed before her eyes, years of heartbreak, the search for her missing daughter, the moment she discovered Willow was hers. The joy. The tears. The hope. And now this stranger was ripping it all apart. Why now? She demanded, her voice shaking. Why come forward after all these years? The man hesitated, his eyes darkening. Because the person who's been keeping this secret is dead, he said quietly. And before they died, they sent me everything. They wanted the truth to come out. Willow felt her chest tighten as she looked between Nina and the stranger. If what you're saying is true, then, who's my real mother? She asked. The man's expression softened again. That's the hardest part, he said gently. Because the woman who gave birth to you isn't alive anymore. But she's someone Nina once knew very well. Nina frowned, her confusion deepening. Who? She whispered. The man took a deep breath before speaking. Her name was Charlotte Hollis. She was a nurse who worked under your mother at the clinic where you were treated. She was pregnant at the same time as you, Nina. But your mother manipulated both of you. When Charlotte gave birth, Madeline made sure her baby was taken and replaced with yours. Tears streamed down Nina's cheeks as she shook her head. No, that can't be. Willow's heart ached at the sight. Despite everything, she couldn't help but feel Nina's pain. So my entire life, Willow began, her voice breaking. It was all a lie. The man looked at her with sympathy. Not a lie, he said softly. But a secret built on someone else's greed. Michael wrapped his arm around Willow, whispering, We'll get through this, I promise. But Willow's eyes stayed locked on Nina. You're not my mother, she whispered tearfully. But I wish you had been. Nina's lips quivered. Willow, please, she begged. I didn't know. Everything I did, everything I fought for, it was because I thought I was trying to make up for the time I lost. Willow turned away, unable to look at her. The judge finally intervened, her tone firm. This hearing is suspended until we can verify these claims, she declared. Court is adjourned. The gavel struck sharply, echoing through the chamber, but no one moved. Everyone was frozen in shock. As the courtroom began to empty, Nina approached the stranger. You said someone sent you this information, she said quietly. Who? The man hesitated, his expression conflicted. You might not believe me, he said finally. But it was Silas Clay. Nina froze. Silas? He's dead. The man nodded. He knew something wasn't right about your daughter's DNA test years ago. He had doubts. Before he died, he started investigating. The files he collected were passed along until they reached me. Nina was speechless. So he knew, she whispered. He suspected. But he never had the chance to finish what he started. Michael stepped forward again. Why should we trust you? He demanded. What's your angle? The man's eyes met his. I'm not here to hurt anyone. I'm here to make things right. My name is Dr. Evan Clay. Silas's brother. The revelation hit like a bomb. Nina's eyes widened. Silas had a brother? She breathed. Yes, Evan said quietly. And I've been working behind the scenes ever since he died, trying to uncover the truth about what happened. I didn't come forward sooner because I needed absolute proof. Willow's knees nearly gave out. So, you're saying my whole life, everyone I thought was family? Evan shook his head. Family isn't always about blood, he said. Sometimes it's about who stands by you when everything falls apart. Nina turned away, tears spilling freely now. All I ever wanted was a family, she whispered. A chance to make things right. Evan sighed. Then maybe this is that chance. The truth hurts, Nina, but it also frees you. You can stop fighting for something that was built on lies, and start living for the truth. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed, shouting questions, cameras flashing. Michael guided Willow through the chaos, shielding her. Nina stayed behind, staring at the courthouse steps as Evan joined her. What happens now? She asked quietly. Now, he said, you tell the truth. To Willow. To everyone. Because until you do, this secret will keep haunting both of you. Nina nodded slowly, her eyes distant. It already has, she whispered. And as she watched Willow disappear into the car with Michael, her heart shattered all over again, knowing that she'd lost her daughter not once, but twice. Later that night, in her penthouse, Nina sat alone, staring at the documents Evan had left behind. Every page felt like a dagger to the heart. But one caught her attention, a photo of Charlotte Hollis holding a newborn baby, smiling faintly. On the back of the photo, scrawled in handwriting Nina recognized instantly, were the words, "Forgive me, Nina. I had no choice." Her breath caught. Mother, she whispered bitterly. You did this to both of us. Meanwhile, across town, Willow sat in silence beside Michael. Everything feels like it's falling apart, she murmured. I don't even know who I am anymore. Michael reached for her hand. You're still you, he said softly. You're still Willow. You're still the mother of our children. You're still the woman I love. But Willow's eyes filled with tears. Then why does it feel like I've lost everything, she whispered. Michael didn't answer. He just pulled her close, wishing he could shield her from the pain. In the shadows, Dr. Evan Clay made a quiet phone call. It's done, he said. The truth is out. A pause followed. Yes, she knows. Both of them do. Now we see what happens next. He hung up and looked out over Port Charles. One secret ends, he murmured, and another begins. The courtroom in Port Charles was thick with tension, the kind that hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to burst. Willow Tate sat rigidly at the plaintiff's table, her hands clasped tightly in her lap, fingers twisting the edge of a tissue that had long since been shredded into useless fragments. Her face, usually soft and composed, was etched with lines of exhaustion and determination. Across from her, Nina Reeves paced subtly behind her own counsel's chair, her elegant attire, a tailored black suit with a silk blouse, doing little to mask the raw emotion bubbling beneath the surface. This wasn't just any legal battle, it was a war over family, secrets, and the fragile bonds that had been shattered and reformed in the chaotic world of General Hospital. The judge, a stern woman named Judge Harlan, banged her gavel once to call the room to order. Counsel, proceed with your next witness, she intoned, her voice echoing off the wood-paneled walls. The gallery was packed, reporters scribbling furiously, family members like Michael Corinthos shifting uncomfortably in their seats, and curious onlookers who had caught wind of the drama. Willow's lawsuit against Nina stemmed from a revelation that had upended her life. Nina was her biological mother, a fact hidden for years amid lies, manipulations, and the ever-twisting plots of Port Charles's elite. Willow's attorney, a sharp-eyed woman named Diane Miller, stood up. Your Honor, the plaintiff calls Dr. Britt Westbourne to the stand. Britt, with her no-nonsense demeanor and history intertwined with half the town, strode forward, swearing in with a practiced ease. She was there to testify about medical records, DNA tests that confirmed the maternal link, but also to highlight the emotional toll on Willow. As Britt spoke, detailing the psychological impact of such a late-in-life discovery, Willow's mind wandered back to the moment it all came crashing down. It had been a rainy evening at the hospital, Willow rushing in after a call about her son Wiley's fever. Nina was there, hovering like a shadow, her eyes filled with a mix of guilt and longing. The confrontation had escalated quickly, accusations flying, truths spilling out like blood from a fresh wound. "You're my mother?" Willow had gasped, the words tasting like poison. Nina's tear-streaked face nodded, but the admission came with caveats, excuses about protecting her from Nellie Benson's madness. Now, in court, Willow sought a restraining order, custody assurances, anything to keep Nina at arm's length while she processed the betrayal. Nina's defense was led by Scott Baldwin, the wily lawyer with a penchant for dramatic flair. He cross-examined Britt relentlessly, poking holes in the emotional testimony. "Isn't it true, doctor, that family reconciliations happen all the time in this town? Look at the Courtrooms, they're a walking soap opera of forgiveness." Britt rolled her eyes but conceded the point, her testimony wrapping up with a neutral shrug. As the morning wore on, the air grew heavier. Willow stole glances at Michael, her husband, who offered a supportive nod from the front row. Their marriage had been tested by this, Michael's own complicated history with Nina, his biological mother and a twisted sense through adoption and revelations. But he stood by Willow, his Corinthos grit shining through. Nina, meanwhile, fidgeted with a pendant around her neck, a keepsake from her lost daughter Nellie, her mind racing through regrets. She hadn't wanted this fight, she wanted connection, redemption. But Willow's walls were ironclad. The judge called for a brief recess, and the room erupted into murmurs. Willow stepped out into the hallway, gulping down water from a fountain, trying to steady her nerves. "You okay?" Michael asked, wrapping an arm around her. She nodded, but her eyes betrayed the storm inside. Back inside, as everyone resettled, Diane prepared to call her next witness, a social worker who had evaluated the family dynamics. But before Diane could speak, the double doors at the back of the courtroom swung open with a dramatic creak. Heads turned, whispers rippling through the crowd. A man stood there, silhouetted against the hallway light. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair cropped short and a face weathered by years, perhaps in his late 50s. His suit was rumpled, as if he'd traveled far and fast, and his eyes scanned the room with a purpose that sent chills down spines. "Who is that?" someone in the gallery muttered. The bailiff moved to intercept, but the man held up a hand, his voice booming with authority. "Your Honor, I have information pertinent to this case. I demand to be heard." Judge Harlan's gavel paused midair. "Sir, this is a closed proceeding. Identify yourself or be removed." The man stepped forward, his boots echoing on the marble floor. He locked eyes with Nina first, then Willow, a flicker of something, regret? Recognition, crossing his features. "My name is Harlan Reeves," he said, his voice steady but laced with emotion. "I'm Nina's brother. And I have a secret that changes everything." Gasps echoed through the room. Nina's face drained of color, her hand flying to her mouth. "Harlan? But, you're dead. You died in that accident years ago." Her voice cracked, memories flooding back. The Reeves family had been fractured long before Port Charles, Nina's coma, her twin Nellie's villainy, all stemming from a tragic past. Harlan, the older brother, had supposedly perished in a car crash when Nina was young, leaving her with their manipulative mother, Madeline. Willow stared, confusion knitting her brows. "What is this? Some stunt?" she whispered to Diane, who was already on her feet objecting. But Judge Harlan, ironic coincidence in names, held up a hand. "Approach the bench, all counsel. And you, sir, come forward with identification." As Harlan Reeves complied, handing over a passport and documents, the courtroom buzzed. Scott Baldwin looked gleeful at the twist, while Diane scrambled to regroup. Michael leaned forward, whispering to Carly Spencer nearby, "This can't be real. Nina never mentioned a brother." Once cleared, Harlan was sworn in, taking the stand amid a hush. "Explain yourself," the judge commanded. Harlan cleared his throat, his gaze shifting between Nina and Willow. "I didn't die in that crash. It was staged by our mother, Madeline. She wanted me out of the picture because I knew too much about her schemes. I was the one who discovered she was drugging Nina's father, siphoning the family fortune. To protect me, or so she claimed, she faked my death and sent me away with a new identity. I've been living in Europe, watching from afar." Nina shook her head, tears streaming. "Why didn't you come back? All these years?" "I couldn't risk it. Madeline was dangerous. But when I heard about this trial, about Willow being your daughter, I had to return. Because there's more." He paused, the room hanging on his every word. "Willow isn't just your daughter, Nina. She's mine too." "No, wait, that's not right." He fumbled, then clarified. "The secret is about the paternity. Nina, our mother lied about everything. Willow's father isn't who you think." The revelation hit like a bombshell. Willow leaned forward, her heart pounding. "What do you mean?" Harlan pulled out a folder from his briefcase, handing it to the bailiff. "DNA tests, birth records. Madeline had an affair. Nina, your pregnancy with the twins, Nellie and Willow, was complicated. But the father wasn't Frank Benson, as she told you. It was Silas Clay." "Silas Clay?" The name reverberated. Silas, the late doctor, father to Kiki Jerome and others, a man whose life had intersected with Port Charles in deadly ways. Nina gasped. "Silas? But how?" "Madeline covered it up to protect her marriage, her schemes. I have proof, letters, tests I ran secretly years ago." Harlan's voice trembled. "Willow, that makes you connected to more than just Nina. The Clay family legacy, it's yours too." The courtroom erupted. Objections flew, the judge banging her gavel furiously. Willow felt the world tilt, her mind racing through implications. Silas Clay had been murdered, his life a web of deceit. If he was her father, that meant siblings, inheritances, enemies. Nina, reeling, stood up. "Harlan, is this true?" "Why now?" "Because I couldn't let you fight like this," he said softly. "Family is all we have left." The judge called for order, adjourning the session for verification. As people filed out, Willow approached Harlan hesitantly. "If you're my uncle, what does this mean?" He smiled sadly. "It means we're all connected, more than we knew. And maybe, just maybe, it's time to heal." But in Port Charles, healing was never simple. As the group dispersed, shadows lingered, unseen figures in the crowd, hinting at deeper conspiracies. Who had summoned Harlan? Was Madeline's ghost still pulling strings from beyond? The shocker secret was out, but the real drama was just beginning. In the aftermath, Willow retreated to the Courtroom mansion, her mind a whirlwind. Michael followed, his concern evident. "This changes everything," he said, pouring her a glass of water. "If Silas is your father, that ties you to Ava Jerome, to the whole Jerome Clay mess." Willow nodded numbly. "I don't know what to feel. Nina's my mother, that was hard enough. Now an uncle from the dead, a new father, it's too much." Across town, Nina met Harlan at Kelly's Diner, the familiar spot buzzing with locals. "Why didn't you contact me sooner?" she demanded, sliding into the booth. Harlan sighed, stirring his coffee. "Fear. Madeline threatened to destroy us all if I returned. But seeing the news about Willow's illness last year, then this trial, I couldn't stay away." Nina's eyes softened. "Willow's cancer, she beat it, but it was hell. If you're really my brother, prove it. Tell me something only we would know." He leaned in. "The summer at the lake house, when you were 10. You caught a firefly, named it Sparkles, and cried when it flew away. I promised to catch you 100 more." Tears welled in Nina's eyes. "It is you. They hugged, a tentative reunion amid the clatter of plates. But doubts crept in. Scott Baldwin, ever the skeptic, dug into Harlan's background that afternoon. "Something's off," he muttered to himself in his office, poring over documents. A call to a contact in Europe revealed inconsistencies. Harlan's new identity had ties to shady dealings, perhaps even Cassadine influence. Meanwhile, at the hospital, Britt confided in her brother Cody Bell. "This Harlan guy shows up out of nowhere? Smells like a con." Cody, with his own secrets, nodded. "Port Charles loves its resurrections. Remember me?" As evening fell, Willow decided to confront Nina. They met at the Metro Court, the rooftop offering a view of the twinkling city. "If this is true," Willow began, "about Silas. I need time." Nina nodded. "I understand. But Harlan, he's family. Maybe he can bridge us." The air in the courtroom was thick, stale, and carried the distinct scent of old wood, anxiety, and cheap perfume. It was a peculiar combination, one that Nina Reeves had become all too familiar with over the past several weeks. Each day blurred into the next, a monotonous parade of legal procedures, objections, and the slow, grinding wheels of justice concerning the custody of her grandson, Wiley. Today was supposed to be a procedural day, a mere formality, another brick in the wall her lawyer was meticulously building against her daughter, Willow Tate, and Willow's husband, Michael Corinthos. Nina, sitting ramrod straight at the plaintiff's table, allowed her gaze to drift across the room. Her eyes, usually sharp and calculating, were shadowed with a profound and desperate weariness. She was fighting for a connection, for a place in the life of the little boy she felt had been unjustly kept from her. Every time she looked at Willow, a complex maelstrom of emotions churned within her, a mother's love, a deep, searing betrayal, and a grief so vast it felt like an ocean inside her chest. Willow, for her part, sat beside Michael, her posture a mirror of defensive resilience. Her hand was clasped tightly in Michael's, their intertwined fingers a silent testament to their united front. She looked at Nina not with hatred, but with a firm, unyielding resolve, a fortress built to protect her son from what she perceived as a toxic and unstable influence. The judge, a weary-looking man named Henderson with a face like a crumpled paper bag and eyes that had seen every shade of human misery, was reviewing a document. The soft rustle of the paper was the only sound, a stark contrast to the emotional tempest swirling silently among the principals. The lawyers, a study in contrasts themselves, Nina's, a sleek shark in a $5,000 suit, and Michael and Willow's, a more pragmatic, bulldog-like woman, were poised, ready to pounce on the next legal technicality. "Counselor," Judge Henderson began, his voice a low rumble that vibrated through the quiet room, "this motion to compel further psychological evaluation seems, to this court, to be a fishing expedition. Ms. Reeves has undergone extensive evaluation. Unless you have new, substantive evidence to present that speaks directly to Ms. Tate's fitness as a parent, I am inclined to." He was cut off not by a voice, but by the slow, deliberate creak of the heavy oak door at the back of the courtroom. It was a sound that seemed to suck all the oxygen from the room. In a place governed by ritual and procedure, an unscheduled entrance was a disruption of the highest order. Every head turned in near unison. A man stood in the doorway, backlit by the fluorescent lights of the corridor, his form a stark, dark silhouette against the bland institutional brightness. He was tall, with a posture that suggested neither youth nor old age, but an immutable solidity. He paused for a moment, his gaze sweeping across the scene before him as if assessing a battlefield. Then, he stepped inside, allowing the door to sigh shut behind him with a soft, final click. He was not a young man, nor was he elderly. His age was difficult to place, he could have been 50 or 70, his face a roadmap of experiences rather than years. His hair was a thick, steely gray, swept back from a high forehead. He wore a simple, well-cut but slightly dated dark suit, devoid of any discernible flair. It was his eyes, however, that commanded attention. They were a pale, almost translucent gray, and they held a stillness, a depth of knowledge that was immediately unsettling. He carried no briefcase, no file, nothing but an air of quiet, unnerving purpose. "Can I help you, sir?" Judge Henderson asked, his voice laced with impatience and a touch of annoyance. "This is a closed custody hearing. The gallery is not open to the public." the man's steps were measured and silent on the polished floor as he walked down the center aisle. He did not look at the judge, nor at the lawyers. His gaze was fixed, unwaveringly, on Nina and Willow. It was a look of intense, personal recognition. "My apologies for the intrusion, Your Honor," the man said. His voice was a low baritone, calm and resonant, each word chosen with the care of a poet. It was a voice that did not ask for attention, it simply commanded it. "My name is Dr. Julian Blackwood. And I am afraid this proceeding cannot continue until certain, foundational truths are brought to light." A frisson of confusion and anticipation ran through the room. Nina's lawyer was on his feet instantly. "Objection, Your Honor. This is highly irregular. This individual is not on any witness list. This is a blatant attempt to disrupt these proceedings." Michael's lawyer joined in. "We move to have this man removed from the courtroom immediately." Judge Henderson held up a hand, his curiosity clearly piqued against his better judgment. He studied Dr. Blackwood, taking in his calm demeanor, his lack of agitation. "Dr. Blackwood, is it? You have exactly 30 seconds to explain to me why I should not hold you in contempt of court. What foundational truths could possibly be so urgent?" Dr. Blackwood finally reached the bar that separated the well of the court from the gallery. He rested his hands lightly upon the polished wood, his pale eyes moving from Nina's confused, slightly irritated face to Willow's, which was a mask of wary apprehension. "The truth," he said, his voice dropping to a near whisper that yet carried to every corner of the silent room, about the nature of the relationship between Nina Reeves and Willow Tate. A derisive, almost hysterical laugh escaped Nina's lips. It was a brittle sound. "What? We all know the nature of our relationship. She is my daughter. A daughter who is trying to keep me from my grandson. This is a waste of the court's time." She turned to the judge. "Your Honor, please." Willow said nothing. She was staring at Dr. Blackwood, a strange, cold dread beginning to uncoil in the pit of her stomach. It was an instinct, a primal feeling that something was about to break, something fundamental about her world. "They are, indeed, biologically related," Dr. Blackwood continued, as if Nina had not spoken. His gaze was compassionate, but it was a terrifying compassion, the kind that precedes the delivery of devastating news. "But the connection is not what you believe it to be. It is not what any of you believe it to be." He paused, letting the silence thicken, letting the suspense wrap around the throats of everyone present like a vice. "Willow is not Nina's daughter," he said, the words falling into the stillness with the weight of stones dropped into a deep well. For a moment, there was absolute, frozen silence. Then, the room erupted. Nina shot to her feet, her face a contorted mask of fury and disbelief. "How dare you? How dare you come in here and spout such vile lies? I gave birth to her. I held her in my arms for a single, precious moment before she was stolen from me. Who are you?" Willow felt Michael's grip on her hand tighten painfully. She couldn't breathe. The words echoed in her mind, senseless and cruel. Not her daughter. It was the foundation of her entire conflict with Nina, the core of the pain. The woman who had given her life was a force of chaos in it. To deny that was to deny reality itself. "Your Honor, this is outrageous," Nina's lawyer boomed.